Hello and welcome to the Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is Monday, August 19th. This is episode 76. I actually checked this time. It's 76. I think I said 76 last time. I'm your host, Sammy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry, or the Fat Squirrel, that's SQRRL, on Instagram and Twitter. If you're a new joyer, yeah. If you're a new viewer, some would like to say, thanks for trying out the podcast. If you're a returning viewer, I kiss your face. Because we're friends now. New viewers will be friends in 40 minutes, but right now, you might not want me to kiss your face. Returning viewers, you may also not want me to kiss your face. Hush. It's not real. How are you? I already said that, I think. Shenanigans! Oh, we went to the state fair this week. The Indiana State Fair, of course. It's on our fine city of Indianapolis. And boy, is it crazy. I don't know. It's like, I love the fair because I grew up near Brown County, Ohio. And Brown County's fair is considered the littlest state, or the biggest it's like the county state. It's something. It's the biggest county fair in Ohio, apparently. Now, don't hold me to that because that's just what they said. I'm sure there was no actual, it's the world's best cup of coffee. You know? But anyway, it was an awesome fair. There were lots of men walking around, and ladies, but mostly men, walking around in Carhartts. They look like farmers. They have like grain company hats on, and there's lots and lots of exhibitors. I mean, like, funny vegetables. My favorite. Actually, they're called freak vegetables. It's like when the people dig up their carrots, and it's two carrots like that have joined together. So they put like a weird, kind of scary, D-legged baby doll head on it, or body. Like Barbie, not real Barbie, of course, but like some cheapo equivalent there too. And they jam her on there, and then she's got carrot legs. It's that kind of stuff, like when they put googly eyes on a squash. Freak vegetables are my favorite. It's got like the cornbread, like who won the blue ribbon for cornbread, that kind of stuff. It also has the quilts and all of the knitting and the crocheting and the needlepoint and of course, the flowers and the vegetables and the animals, of course. It has all of those things, right? It's just a county fair, and it's in the fall, or at least in the end of September-ish. I might be lying, but it feels more like fall. State fair is kind of fancy, right? A, it's expensive. Oh my goodness. But B, we went into the what is it called? It's like the Home Ec building. That's not what it's called. It's called something like Home Arts. I'm not trying to be flash dancy here. Sorry, my sweater's just not being cooperative. Like the Home Arts building, which, by the way, the building is awesome. I need to figure out when that was built because it's like an old, weird building and it's wonderful. And like there are all the awesome, like it's all of the needlework and the spinning was a great exhibit. They actually had folks spinning there. There was two ladies spinning, and they had wheels set up, and they had like all the different fibers. Like they had wool, and they had like alpaca and llama and angora. But then they had also the weird plant fibers, like the soy fiber, the milk protein fiber, the corn fiber, the sea cell. So you get to touch all those. By the way, I've never touched all those. I don't like them. They feel weird. I could see how they'd be okay blended, but they feel weird by themselves. Very weird. It's like a weird grit to them, much like acrylic yarn. But anyway, so that was so fascinating, interesting, and good. But there were no freak vegetables. Who were the freak vegetables? It was not as down homey as it was fancier. That's okay. It was a fair. So we did that, which was fabulous. My daughter got to play putt-putt for free at the Future Farmers of America exhibits, or hall. They have a whole hall. And we got to go to the DNR hall, which has like all of the crazy fish, which she thought that was, and also we got to participate in the cockroach scramble. Do you know what that is? They take like 4 hissing cockroaches, those big ones that are kind of scary. But then they have the cutest DNR guy wrangling them. He's so cute, I could die. They picked the right guy. So he gets all the kids and all the adults, and you have to pick a number, and then there's like little openings. Like it's like a square table with like sides it's deep, and there's like little doorways. So then they put the cockroaches in the middle and they release them. All the kids have pulled out a little token that has a number on it, which corresponds to a door. And whichever cockroach, or, it doesn't matter which cockroaches, but it's the first cockroach to enter a door, the holder of that number token wins a prize. It was like a wooden nickel, but it was very cute. But he was so cute. He got everybody cheering, and we were all screaming and yelling and clapping, and those poor cockroaches. I'm sorry, cockroaches. I'm sure their brains are not big enough to process fear or anything, but boy, they had shenanigans to tell their friends about. Crazy. So that was fun. Peppa was winner. It was a good time. My daughter rode on her first rides ever. She really has never been on a ride. Am I a bad mother? She's 6 and she's never been on a ride before. Isn't that weird? I mean, we've been on like the train at the zoo, but it doesn't really count. So she was very excited. She got to ride the Ferris wheel and the Crazy Mouse, which was kind of like a little roller coaster-ish kind of thing, but the car like pivots also. This spins, but like not like it's constantly spinning. It just spins when it goes around corners. She did not care for that as much. And then she rode that one that's the swings that spins, and then the swings go out like this. She liked that one a lot better. My husband did not like that as much. He was like, that kind of made me a little uncomfortable. I was like, I know, that's why you came with us. Because I don't ride those rides. I need any carny to be checking the bar and be like, ma'am, I don't need that moment in my life. Trying to click it. I don't need that moment with a carny. But also just because, really, that's a husband job. I know, I'm a sexist. But so they had a grand time at the Midway, but did not go totally crazy because, oh my goodness. I know electricity is expensive, but boy, expensive. But it was cool because we're like total nerds, and we got there as soon as the fair opened because we're nerds. And so the Midway opened at like 11 after we'd already been there a couple hours. So we were kind of like, there was not very many people there. We're like, are they really going to let these kids ride these rides? And husbands ride these rides by themselves, essentially? They totally did. Isn't that awesome? So she got to ride no lines. Right to that a line. Sometimes she and the husband were the only ones on the ride. It was awesome. So that was the fair. I feel like there should be more. Oh, we saw a wolf show. What? It was pretty interesting. Okay, I know. It's conflicting, right? There are wolves in cages. They are all rescued animals who would not be able to be in the wild for one reason or another. So there's that. But the lady, so cute. There's a little lady. She's little. She's like, maybe she's 5'4". And she's probably, I don't know, maybe she's in her 50s-ish. But she's totally in like this enclosure at one point with like 5 wolves running around her like crazy. They're not trained because they're wolves. But she's totally just like talking, and she's like feeding them raw meat, and they're just, and the 5 once, see, first she brings out the one because he has been rejected by the pack. So he can't be with the other ones because they'll be mean to him. And he totally rescued a little girl at one point. Right? He's a wolf. A wolf. Like, he's a real wolf. He was injured at some point, so he went to like a place where they have rehabilitated animals, and then they have folks that come in who are like special needs people who come in, and like they have like an animal that they kind of are paired up with. Well, you're like, this is way too much. I'm sharing. Hush. So there's a little girl who like takes, now she didn't say the age or why the girl's special needs, but it was a limited time. So there's a girl who is paired up with a wolf, and she comes to walk the wolf, like so many times a week or whatever. They're walking and they had to walk over a bridge. It's winter time. The little girl is in her wintry clothes, but she must not be a little girl because she's by herself with the wolf. Okay, so she's not like a tiny girl. She's just, maybe she said little as like she's special needs and is like little in, she's still a precious child in an adult's body or something. I don't know. So she's walking with the wolf though, and they go over a bridge, and the bridge, like a board or something, collapses in the bridge and they fall into the water. Well, the little girl and the wolf are in the water. The little girl can't swim because she's in all of her winter clothes and she's probably scared to death. But the wolf totally stayed with her and pushed her to the bank. It's a wolf. If I were a wolf, I'd be like, sweet, I'm free, and I would run away. Not this wolf, because it was a real wolf and not me pretending I'm a wolf with no morals because I'm a bad person. It totally pushed the girl to the bank. What the hell is that? I don't know, it made me very excited. The world is so cool. So anyway, that was fascinating. And again, that sassy little lady. So the 5 wolves that she was in with at one point were all like, they had been raised as pups. So, she's a little bit probably more comfortable. They're still wolves. They still have big giant teeth and claws. And they're all like because, they're not like dogs, but, So they're all, but how dogs play, they kind of, sometimes it's a little scary when they play because they feel like they're fighting, but they're not really fighting. But they're doing that, and it's kind of, I would not be in there. She's just like, oh, stop. They're all like, ah, to each other. But she was awesome. Oh, is there anything else I need to tell you about from the fair? Awesome spinning. Wolf thing. General fairiness of goodness and goodnessness. I think that's all. Nobody in cars. What's up with that? I gotta go to my county fair again. Ooh, one of the good things though. There was like fair food. And normally I'm like, wee! Okay, I went with my husband. He doesn't eat food. He was excited about the elephant ear, which I think is terribly cute of him. That was it. That's all he's excited about. So, like, all of the things I would normally want to eat, which would be very exciting, are gigantic. So, the giant onion thing, right? The giant onion thing. But so there's nobody to eat it with. So I couldn't spend like, I don't know, $38 on a giant onion because it's probably what it cost. And then throw half of it away or just be like on the corner, like, does anybody want to throw my onion? Because that's not creepy. So luckily, and also it was hot because again, they don't have the fair at the right time of year. I know the county fairs are later usually, although our city fair is like way earlier. That's crazy enough. Our Marion County Fair. Anyway, so I guess they have to make sure that it doesn't like conflict with the county fairs or whatever, but so what I was saying is though, at least it was hot, and so a giant fried onion did not sound as exciting as it normally would have. I don't know. Why do I tell you these things? What else am I going to tell you? Ooh, I know I'm going to tell you. Are you watching this show? I'm going to be like the worst person ever today. Let's talk about the fair and television. I'll talk about knitting in a minute, hush. Have you watched this show? It's called Alaska, The Great Frontier. Now you're probably all like, dude, we have watched that. It's been out for a while now, you big nerd. We don't have the cables or the net or the even the network channels because we live in the city and the antenna doesn't, whatever. Yeah, we're fine. But so I don't always find out about things because I don't like advertisements. They stress me out. But because we don't watch shows that have we don't watch media that has lots of advertising in it, sometimes we don't know about other shows that exist either. Does that make sense? Okay. So there's this show, and it's still available on Discovery because it's a Discovery Channel show. And it is called Alaska, The Last Frontier. Okay, so I was confused for a moment. Have you watched it? Do you love it? I love it! It's all of my giantiest, nerdiest fantasies rolled up into one. Well, not really, but pretty darn close. As much as I could ask for, like, without special ordering television. And I can't remember their names all of a sudden. I'm very confused. The Kilchers. Okay. If you've already seen the show, just agree with me as we go. Okay. So it's this family. The patriarch of the family lived in Switzerland before World War II. So as like Nazi Germany was growing and Hitler was coming to power, he decided he was getting out of Dodge. So he left Switzerland, and then I'm not sure how exactly he made it to Alaska, but he made it to Alaska. And that was the time my daughter evidently is playing a horse game, which just like at me, which was very weird. Anyway, so somehow he made it to Alaska, and it was like during the time when the Homesteading Act was still in place in Alaska, where you could just basically, if you could improve your acreage over a certain amount of time, that acreage became yours. Those times are gone now. Anyway, so he had 8 children. 2 of those children still live on the land. One of them is a cattle rancher. One of them is like the cattle rancher's, I don't want to say assistant because that sounds like he's not on equal footing, but like he doesn't have primary responsibility for the cattle. He does all of their like summer pasture, like range riding. He protects the cows when they're out in their summer grazing grounds. So he's like a real cowboy. Not the other guy is. I'm not judging anybody, you know what I mean? And then they each have a son that lives on the homestead, and those sons have wives, and one of them has children. Did I get everybody? Anyway, it's so awesome. I love it so much. They're in Alaska. So exciting. They're homesteaders. So exciting. And they do everything, like they pretty much live, they don't live completely off land because they have like equipment that has like gasoline. So obviously they're getting kerosene from somewhere, they're getting gasoline from somewhere. They don't exactly go into great detail about like their dry goods situation, but I'm sure they're getting dry goods from somewhere. But a lot of the show is them like gardening and hunting and fishing, and if that freaks you out, don't watch it. But like it's for real. Like they're eating. It's not like big game hunting where it's just a trophy. Like it's subsistence. Like subsistence farmers, is that right? Anyway, it's fascinating. I love it. Do you watch it too? Have you seen it before? You should go see it. It's for free on Discovery Channel, or you can buy it on Amazon Prime. I'm just going to go ahead and admit I bought it. Because it was so good. I feel like I was compelled to give them my dollars. That never happens. But I was so excited about it that I really wanted more. And so I felt like maybe my dollars would tell them that. I wish I could like attach a note to my dollars. Like, I don't usually give people my dollars, but I was very excited about your show. Okay, that was a lot of talking about nothing. I'm sorry. So I don't have a whole lot of knitting, which is why I felt like totally justified in my self-indulgent crazy talk. I have a little bit of spinning. I don't know if you remember last time, a long time ago when I talked about spinning, I was spinning some merino. I'm spinning some natural colored merino, and I'm going to do a 3-ply. So I have 2 of my 3-plies done. And the 3rd ply is like, I'm going to say it's half-ish done. So hopefully I'll get that done this week. I hope, because I would like to get that done. Anyway, I'm totally enjoying it, but I find that I can't decide how I'm spinning it, so I think I've spun each bobbin slightly differently. It may be totally crazy looking yarn. But I've also had that realization this week. Like, as I was like getting kind of stressed out about like, this is not super duper even, or this is not this, or this is not that. And then I was like, dude, I kind of don't care. And that was nice to realize that. I mean, eventually, yes. I mean, I would like to get to a place where if I wanted to spin a very even yarn, and I'm sure right now if I really sat down, and maybe not, I don't know, but I would like to get to that place where I could spin a very consistent yarn if it was, but you know what? Also, sometimes I don't care. Like, I love yarn. Sometimes it's nice if it's regular, but usually you can buy that. Sometimes it's nice if it's mostly regular. Mostly. Overall. Really like that Lavinia I made, spun and then knit the Ellison Bay shawl with. Totally uneven. Guess what? Didn't matter. Still love the product. So maybe I should just chill out a little bit. Not that I've ever stressed out too much, but it did occupy my brain space for a good 5 or 10 minutes. And then I was like, settle down. Settle. Right? Right. Okay, so now knitting. I have no finished objects. I know, right? Shame on me. Oh well. These things happen. But I do have lots of progress on one thing. Now, you might, some podcasters who can knit a sweater in a day and a half. That's right, I'm talking to you people. I'm not one of those podcasters. This is totally Erin weight, and it's still taking me forever. And really, I won't even pretend that it's just because I'm a bigger size. Because even if I was half the size I am, I would still be not done with the sweater yet. So, and I feel like I've knit on it I've only knit on 2 things this week. Bam! Yeah, that's right. But you see, I did get a lot of progress done. So this is my chocolate stout by Baby Cocktails, and it's knit with Peace Fleece worsted in the brownie with nuts colorway. So it's one of their new colorways that's 90% wool, 10% mohair. I couldn't think of it for a minute. So it has slightly less mohair content than their older wools. I was just curious to see. I have another, my orange sweater is like that too. This feels very different from that, but maybe it's just because it's tighter gauge. But so it's still, I mean, yeah, you can see my face behind there, right? I'm knitting it on 4s, but it's still open enough. I just knit super loose. So I just did the armholes. So if you're curious about the modifications I made, I talked about it forever and a half in the last episode. So feel free to go back to that one. The only other modifications I've made that I haven't told you about are, the pattern has you do the armhole kind of differently than I'm accustomed to. I don't want to tell you exactly how because it's a pay-for pattern. So I'm doing it more of the traditional way where you actually have a certain number cast off. And the way I found out which number to use is I used that Ann Budd Handy Book of Sweaters thing. And then I'll just, so I cast off that many at the bottom. And then I'll just decrease the same for the armhole. I'll decrease the same amount that is suggested ultimately so that I have finished with the same amount. Does that make sense? It does, right? And I've kind of gone back and forth as whether I'm going to sew this sleeve in. I really had decided that I was going to go ahead and just sew it in as the pattern dictated, but then that armhole's kind of funky, so now I'm back to not knowing for sure I'm going to do that. It'll happen when it happens. So I am on my 4th skein. What? I'm just dropping stitches. You know, whatever. So I'm pleased with that thus far. It's kind of hard on my hands. I'm going to have to slow down a little bit. Hey, it's getting warmer here. Our pretend fall is over. So I may not want to work on it as much. But also, it's hard on my hands. That combined with the sewing, I'm like, oh, I need to back off a little bit. So this is how I backed off a little bit. Did I work on a project I already have? Psh, let's not be silly. I did, however, cast on with my yarn that I bought at Stitches Midwest. This is my Miss Babs Northumbria DK, and this is the Dreamweaver color. I don't know why I'm showing this. You can't see it. But it's the Northumbria DK, and the Dreamweaver color is 100% BFL Superwash, 240 yards. I am knitting this as a sport weight because it is a DK, but it's a hat. You know, so I like and also it's not a real fat DK. It's right on the line between sport and DK. So in the interest of hattiness, I like a hat to be slightly denser. So I went down, and now I'm going to stall because I forgot what the name of this pattern is. It's a woolly wormhead pattern. It is the North Lyme, and that's Lyme, by Woolly Wormhead. And it can be knit as either a beanie or as a stocking cap. or slouchy, not stocking cap, slouchy hat. I'm trying to see. There's no picture in the pattern. It is like an envelope closure in the back. So instead of doing regular decreases, it's like an envelope, which is why I was like, we'll try that, see how that works. Because it sounded kind of fun, and I think it will be fun. And here it is. Yay! So I knit the bottom. It's provisional cast on. I use the I do the crochet on provisional cast on, where you actually use the crochet hook and your waste yarn to crochet onto the needle. So your first round is like the actual waste yarn, and then you knit from that. And then I won't show you. I like how she has you adhere it, for lack of a better word, to the body of the hat. I very much like how she did that. It's a very nicely written pattern. It's not terribly, it's not terribly complicated. It's a hat, but I really like the pattern, even so. It is a pay for pattern. Did I already say that? I don't know. So yes, it's stocking it down here. I did this on 1s to get gauge. I know it's ridiculous, whatever. And I'm on 3s for the body of the hat. Oh, I'm not magic looping. I'm doing that like traveling loop thing, because I can't work on 16-inch needles anymore. Like, I just can't. It hurts my hands too much. So I'm using, and I didn't have any long enough needles to do a true magic loop. So I'm just doing I think it's called traveling loop. Did I just make that up? It's where you constantly have this loop here. But then whenever you stop the roll, you can just pull it out and start, because you have your stitch marker in. So as long as you don't ever stop right there, everything's kosher. Sorry. So I've got quite a bit left to do before I do the envelope closure. I think it's going to be super cute. This would be a great colorway for, it's very gender neutral. Like, I could totally knit this for a Beller, but it's mine. Because I'm selfish like that. And that is all of my knitting that I really worked on this week. Right. I know. Even though there was incessant talking at the beginning, I better not do that. Even though there was incessant talking at the beginning, still going to be a short show. Sometimes it happens. Okay, so the only thing I have left is shameless self-promotion. So if you don't want to see that, I'll see you next time. If you do want to see that, here we go. There will be a shop update August 23rd. That's a Friday. And it will be at 9 p.m. Eastern. The next updates will be the first Friday of September. That'll be a larger update, which I think I actually will split into maybe a Friday evening at 9 p.m. and maybe like a Sunday morning at 9 a.m. That's kind of my thought at this point, but I'll tell you more as we get closer. Just because there'll be quite a few bags, and that way, again, if you have conflict of time, I don't always do that because I just don't. No, there's not a good reason. But I feel like with a bigger update, it's a little easier for me to manage. So most of those bags will probably be ready to ship. But some of them I will not have sewn because I'm not sure exactly how many that will actually sell. I do have the materials for all of them, so there won't be an issue of having to wait for materials. But some of them may be sewn to order. Does that make sense? So I would say probably 25% of them or so will have a made to order tag, and it may be a couple, 3 weeks. And I'll have all the details as we get closer, and I'll also try to put them out there when I do the updates. Okay, so this week's though, sorry, I have a lot of information. So there's this little guy. This is my small wedge, medium wedge. I'm just going to start calling it the small wedge, but I've called it the medium wedge before. I'm just going to call it small because I'm not going to make a bag smaller than that. That's this style. So it has funny lining. I know it's usually cream, but I surprised you this time. So it is like a grayish, slaty blue. No, it's really gray, but it has little bits of blue in it that make it sometimes read a little bluer. But mostly it's gray. But it's blue or gray. And it'll have the fat handle because it didn't look good with the skinny handle. don't know. So this will be available in this size and the large wedge. Give you an idea of, again, pattern placement will always vary. So there's that one. This one, can you tell it's my favorite? It's orange. I love it. This one will be available in this size. This is the large wedge. It will also be available in sweater size. It has the traditional lining. It has a brown zipper. I know it's kind of weird-ish, but I feel like it went. There was no this color zipper. It was not happening. So there's those. Again, that'll be in this size and the sweater. And then we have this one. It's like a really fun, it seems like it's reading pretty well on my screen anyway. And it has the traditional lining. And it will be the sweater size and then the large wedge size. This fabric, just FYI, is slightly lighter weight than my normal fabrics are. It is still considered a decorator quality and decorator weight. But it was right on the line of needing interfacing or not. The blue bags do have interfacing. They are also kind of like almost like a brushed surface. It's not really a sateen surface, but there's like an interesting texture. It's not as much of a woven texture. The other two are definitely more of a woven texture. And this one, again, it's a lighter weight one. And it still has the heavier duty lining. And I still think it has good body. But it was right on the line of whether it needed to be interfaced or not. But when I don't have to use interfacing, I try not to. Because I like the way the bags look better when they're not as rigid. So, just FYI. Okay, I think that's enough. Totally. Remember, we will have a Squirrel It Away along in September and October. Do you have anything you squirreled away? Do you? I know I do. And there will be Squirrel Awayable prizes. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're planning your upcoming cows and whatnot. Okay. All right. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.